This is the 2020 Honda Passport Touring. I almost said Pilot, but I didn't. And we're comparing it against the 2020 Atlas Cross Sport.
So both these SUVs are based on a 3-row SUV. So the Passport is based on the Pilot, the Atlas Cross Sport is based on the Atlas. But both of them, even though they have 5 seats instead of 7, they have the exact same wheelbase as the larger truck.
And forgive me if I ever say Pilot, because the whole week we've been trying to say Passport and we keep saying Pilot. So that's the fun part.
The Passport Touring costs $50,305, while the Atlas Cross Sport Execline comes in at $54,495. But currently, you can get $2,500 off. So there's really only $2,000 between them. As we said, the recipe for both is pretty simple. Get rid of the third row, give us a much larger trunk, and make the shape a bit more appealing.
In the case of the Passport, they made it look a bit more rugged than the Pilot.
Yeah, the Passport definitely tries to express a bit of an adventurous spirit, but the Atlas Cross Sport takes the more elegant route. It looks sharp and posh with clean lines. It kind of tries to be like a BMW X6, but maybe not really. And did you notice the first big difference between the two trucks?
Sunroof, panoramic roof. This they don't have a panoramic roof.
No panoramic roof here. So between the two, which one do you like more?
Honestly, I like both, but the Atlas tops it off with the front LED shapes. I like how they've actually trimmed that out the way it looks more like an Audi or BMW or whatever. That's
The
my...
dual lights. But
Yeah.
this one also has nicer headlights.
It does,
Yeah.
but it's so Honda-ish. I don't know. I prefer the newer, more poshy look, I guess.
For me, it's a complete tie. I mean, they're very different in their approach. I like how the Passport looks. I like how the Crossport looks. I don't know. I can't make up my mind.
I'm a snob. That's why I like the Volkswagen.
Now, inside, the Passport is well put together, but the materials are not soft. They don't feel very high quality. The design, I feel, is quite simple and clean. However, in year 2020, I'm not sure this looks as modern as it should.
Yeah, I think this feels a bit old.
I mean, mainly in the Passport, what I don't like is the instrument cluster, especially that green line on top. I absolutely hate it for the Eco. The infotainment is not that bad. It just looks kind of small, even though it's not that tiny. It's just for the placement.
I think it's good enough. It's good size. You can touch everything. It's responsive, snappy. It's got all the features up front.
At least it has a proper volume knob, and the volume knob logo is at the right spot.
Get over it.
We'll talk about that later. In the Atlas Cross Sport, the materials aren't much better, but it does play its cards a bit differently. It has a dual color interior, it looks a bit more pleasant to the eye, and the instrument cluster, being all fully digital and with nicer graphics, and the infotainment system is a touch more modern.
The Atlas is nicer. I like the two-color. It looks nicer. It's very appealing. It's much more classy, and it feels like a luxurious line of automobile.
Both cars support Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so once your smartphone is connected, it's pretty much all the same. Both cars have wireless charging pads and enough USB ports, and both cars have plenty of storage spaces, but the Passport, I think, has a few more.
Don't forget the power outlets. They've got a lot of power. There's one right
Yeah.
here. There's one in the back. You can plug right in and...
They're practical, usable SUVs.
Yeah. So, I gotta say, both SUVs are very comfortable. The Passport is nice. It's got nice wide seats to support the body, but I felt the Atlas was a bit more plusher, and it felt like it was supporting my body a little better. It was softer. It was more roomier. It was giving me more butt space because my butt's a little bit flabbier.
Both are very roomy and very comfortable, though, but I think in the Atlas, funny enough, I think you had a little bit more headroom.
Yeah, maybe. I don't
Which is
know.
weird, because this one is the actually taller car.
Yeah, well, no, I think they're both about the same. It's just because it's a little deceiving because you have the panoramic roof.
Both cars have massive trunks with huge openings. The Crossport has kick to open, but it doesn't close the same way, only with a button. However, the Passport has nothing.
True.
Well, it has a button, but there's no kick operation.
Well, they both have buttons.
When it comes to cargo capacity, the Atlas Crossport gets dinged because of the sloping roofline. The Passport has 1,430 liters, whereas the Crossport has 1,141. The Passport is also a little bit lighter. It weighs 1,914 kilos, whereas the Crossport is 2,043. That makes sense because it is longer and it is overall a bigger car. It also has a longer wheelbase. The rear seats are heated in both cars, but the Passport has rails, so the seats can actually slide, giving it the upper hand in terms of practicality. Roominess in both cars is very similar. Headroom and legroom is really good. The similarities of these cars continues under the hood. So the Passport has a 3.5 liter V6 that makes 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. It's mated to a 9-speed automatic transmission, and for some reason it also has paddle shifters.
Yeah, paddle shifters are nice. The Atlas has the VR6 engine in it, which produces 276 horsepower and 266 pound-feet of torque, making it no slouch either.
But it has an 8-speed automatic. And which one do you think is faster?
Well,
Drag race?
yeah.
Yeah.
VTEC, yo.
VTEC, yo.
VTEC, yo.
Yeah, the Passport's faster.
Yeah.
For those of you interested in numbers, the Passport did 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.2 seconds, whereas the Atlas Crossport did it in 8.7 seconds. Braking from 100 kilometers an hour, the Passport stopped in 46 meters, whereas the Atlas Crossport took 47.9, so 48. So in terms of performance, I think they're very similar, but to round it up, everyday use, Crossport feels a bit nimbler, but outright performance, pedal to the metal, Passport is faster.
Yeah, honestly, I'm very tossed. I think both cars drive very well. It's very difficult for me to choose which one actually handles better. They're both really good.
So speaking about handling, okay, they're both nothing to see here, kind of SUVs. I mean, they're big, they're heavy. You know, their primary purpose is not handling. They're very safe, but
Yeah.
just not exciting.
It's not a track truck.
No track hawk or quadrifoglio here. When turning hard, I think the Passport just manages its weight. It goes into the turn, starts understeering. The iVTM4 all-wheel drive does a pretty good job managing where torque goes. It's a very front-wheel biased system. I think the Crossport favors the rear a little bit more than the Passport, but honestly, they're both great. They have good steering, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, both are about the
I was
same.
surprised.
Yeah, so was I. I thought this wasn't going to be as nice as the Crossport, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Honda has definitely stiffened the Passport versus the Pilot. The Pilot is very, feather light.
It is. It feels like this can take more of a hit.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely feels a bit more rugged. I don't think it can really go off-road and do some hardcore stuff, but for having a kayak on the roof and approaching a river should work, or going to the cottage.
Or if you get stuck in a zombie apocalypse,
That's when you want something like a Bronco, though, or something really hardcore that can plow through zombies. This one,
I guess.
yeah. In terms of ride comfort, I feel that they're completely the same. It just feels like the Passport will take a harder hit, as you said, whereas the Atlas maybe will be unhappier.
In terms of comfort, this is definitely nowhere near as comfortable as the Atlas. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I shouldn't say nowhere near. The Atlas is much more plushier and more comfort. For me, I gotta say I felt much more comfortable driving the Atlas on a longer trek than this one. This one, I feel as if the seat's a little bit too short, but it's also less plushy than the Crossport. So I think the Atlas wins hands down over that. In terms of fuel economy, what did you do?
13.5,
Shut up.
which is like exactly what I see there.
That's insane. I can't believe that.
There's nothing in them. They're identical. And
Yeah.
the one thing I have to say, though, is that on the Passport, I have never used the Econ button because
Yeah, I can't stand the Econ button. I mean,
the way the car drives after is like,
it's so numb. It just destroys the whole experience.
thanks.
It's not.
And then there's more green stuff in the instrument cluster, and
I hate green. Yeah, I can't stand it.
A very important topic is the sound from
Oh,
the engine and from the sound system.
well, I'm going to talk about the sound system. So I'm going to say right now, if you're looking for audio in either vehicle, they're both great. This is much louder. So the
being
Passport
this.
has the Passport's got a much louder, and I want to say cleaner, but it wasn't cleaner than the Atlas. The Atlas Crossport, I should say, had a much bassier, cleaner, sharper audio sound system than this does. You can both drive down the street and pound the crap out of them, and everyone's going to hear you, but your ears are going to appreciate the Crossport much more at the end of the day.
I have never spoken about sound systems that long.
Shut up. In terms of the engine, I can't hear enough of either one of them to really have a comment or an opinion on it, so I really don't care.
I was gonna say that the VR6, because that's what it traditionally does, it sounds pretty good. I have to say though that when the VTEC kicked in, I kind of like this one. Sounded good.
VTEC yo.
VTEC yo.
Yo!
I just heard the difference in like, kind of funny. Being an SUV, obviously one thing you're gonna want to do is tow stuff. So both are exactly identical again, depending on the towing package you get. You're gonna tow between 2,000 and 5,000 pounds.
Yep, bang on.
That's it. In terms of technology, infotainment's pretty much on par. Both have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, built-in navigation. Sound systems we covered. Instrument cluster, a little bit nicer in the Crossport. But what about other technology? Did you notice that the blind spot monitors are actually inside the car on the Passport?
Did, and I found it a little bit awkward.
Lane keep assist. I think the Crossport did a little bit better in terms of keeping the lane and helping the driver. And it's a bit more behind the scenes. Like, it's not actively taking over your driving. The Passport, you have to set everything on, including the adaptive cruise control, which at least here it works.
I wasn't happy at all with how lane keep assist worked in this car. I found it didn't actually keep the lane as well as the Atlas Crossport did. And I found
the shakiness when you're departing the lane.
But that's good. I mean, if you're like half in the bag
around.
and, God forbid you never drive when you're not at the capacity you should be. But, in case you get bored and you're kind of dazing away at the road because it's a long trip, it actually shakes. Yeah. So you're like, what the? So it's better than something vibrating on your butt.
Depends who you ask.
Touche.
So to summarize the Passport, what did you like the most about it?
I like most about it what I like about both cars. The drive is nice. They're both comfortable. The sound systems are great. I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, I mean, all the convenience packages are here. There's nothing in this car I don't have where I would miss it on a big long trip. So
you have one feature here that you don't have in the Crossport, and that's this. The mirror to see the kitties.
That's true.
Okay, time to go drive the Atlas a bit.
All right, you drive. I'm tired. Back in the Atlas Crossport.
So what's the first thing you notice once you come out of the Passport and into the Atlas?
It's so much nicer, so much more welcoming. But I know what you noticed the first thing you got inside here.
What was that?
This little knob.
Touch that again, you die. Yeah, that volume knob is so annoying. For me personally, that's either a deal breaker or I need to call my buddies at Vinyl Mod to make me a nice little sticker to go over that logo because I really can't stand watching it going sideways.
And you could put like a little carbon fiber thing, but if it really bothers you that much, just use the controls over there.
That's what I did. I make it nice and straight, and then I only use the steering wheel controls, and then anybody that touches that knob dies a very painful death.
Did anyone ever talk to you about your OCD by chance?
No.
No? It seems a little, high.
Let's talk about this thing, because the Crossport is very nice to drive. I like the seating position much more than compared to the Passport. I like that it feels like I'm driving a car here. It almost feels like they took a Golf and they blew it up in proportions and you're driving a very big Golf.
That's a very educated description of... I'm very impressed. Wow, you're on board today, man.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Bang on. I like it a lot more in terms of seating position, driving, comfort, even... Yeah, just being in here feels a lot better.
It's quieter, too. It feels like it's been put together a little bit better, like the fit and finish. Like you don't hear any sort of rattling or squeaking when you go over bumps. I think it's just overall quieter. I think aerodynamically it's also better, so you have less wind noise when you're driving. It's just a smoother ride. And that's why I think it also feels more expensive, even though really it's not. Like once you start touching stuff around, it feels as cheap as the Pilot.
Yep.
Passport.
You did it.
Passport.
1-0.
But this, you can't beat this. This panoramic roof.
No, that's the money
Is
right there.
very
That's
nice.
the money. Panoramic sunroof.
You're thinking Panameras, aren't you?
I was.
Panameric.
I really missed the Porsche we had.
My kids, though, now that I remembered, did mention something about the rear seats in the Atlas versus the Passport. They said they like the fact that you can recline the seats here and make them a bit more chill.
It's true.
So you can slide the other ones. These ones you can recline. So,
Yeah, that's a bonus.
Yeah, not
The
bad.
kids will appreciate it.
So what's the overall appreciation of these two cars?
What do you mean by appreciation?
How do you feel about them? You had $52,000 to spend, plus taxes, and you're out there in the market, you see these two.
Well, so I think that's also personal preference. I think what appeals to people in our generation is the luxurious feel and look of this car. I think people will go for the simplistic approach of the design, the electronic display, there's no tack, and the touchscreen here is a little, well, they're both the same size, but I was about to say it's bigger, but it's not.
This
I
is
think
just
it's about
closer,
the
that's
same.
why it feels bigger.
Yeah.
It's like porn.
So it's actually pretty good. In the Passport, I think, and I tested this on my dad where he got it and he liked the fact that there were buttons. So instead of going through a menu and trying to figure out what you're doing where, you get a button to push.
This one has enough buttons too, though. I mean,
It's got buttons, yeah.
the main stuff have buttons, which is good. I like that the Crossport has driving modes on top of off-road and terrain modes.
Yes, that is actually really cool. And I didn't
Yeah.
notice that until yesterday.
So they both have like normal snow, mud, whatever. But the Crossport on top of that has the normal. You can make it like eco or sport or custom. I mean,
Yep.
you can't customize a lot of things. I mean, it's unfortunate it doesn't have like dynamic dampers or anything like that, but it's good enough.
But you can fine tune your driving experience is the whole point, right? You can't do that in the other one.
Yeah, it's a bit more customizable. In this category, you also have things like the Nissan Murano. You have the Ford Edge that could be a competitor.
You know what?
Chevy Blazer. It's
I
also
wouldn't
a very
take-
nice SUV.
I wouldn't take any of those over this. You know why? Because of the comfort factor. Actually, the Murano, the Nissan Murano is comfortable. I
And
find
the
this one...
Edge ST is pretty fast.
Yeah, but you're not buying this to be fast. You're buying it because it's comfortable. You've got a lot of space to put stuff. And you have a lot of amenities, right? You're buying it because you're probably going to do a lot of trips in it with your family. You're not buying it because you're going to take it on the track.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the Passport is probably the most cheap to run. They all run on regular gas, which is good. But, I mean, being a Honda, I'm assuming that maintenance and reliability are going to be pretty good.
yeah, I mean, that's still got the brand around reliability and maintenance. And yeah, I mean, people might pick that for that sole reason.
Or at
but,
least the initial thought of it being like that, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, we know how cars are with recalls. And, you know, not saying that either have more recalls than the other, but I'm just saying, you know, in the past, people may view one single recall as, whoa, I'm not touching that brand ever again, right? But that's not true because a lot of other cars and brands have those recalls. But at the end of the day,
You can
Honda
find
still has
11
that.
everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
that bombshell,
Well, what do you pick? You can't go yet. You have to
what
pick
do I
something.
pick? I have to pick something?
Yeah. We haven't even scored it either.
Okay, so here's my scores. The Passport, I'll give it a very sympathetic 7.8 out of 10.
0.8? Why not
7.8.
8? Why not
Because
8?
I feel like it. And it's a subjective score, and I can give it whatever I want.
You're a little...
The Atlas, I'm going to give it an 8, only because I think it looks a little bit nicer, at least to me.
See, I'm not like you. I'm not a prick. I think I'm going to give this an 8.5, and I'm going to give the Passport an 8.
Okay, well, yeah, again, it's not a clear victory from either truck for me. It's really what you prefer, visually especially. Visually is what the big difference is between these. Like,
Yeah.
If you could drive somehow blindfolded, then there's not much between the two cars. But obviously you can't drive blindfolded. So,
Well, you could in a Model S or in a Model 3,
but you
technically.
shouldn't.
No.
And on that bombshell, with these two trucks that are so close, it's time to end. Till next time, be well.
Later.
Perfect.